That is true.
Hey, good evening, ladies and gentle drunks. Welcome to the fourth dimension. Big book study, that is. My name is Kevin Olson. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I'm glad you're all here. Thank you for joining us. I'm certainly glad I'm here. Love all you guys. Love the big book. Love Alcoholics Anonymous. Love the big book compendium. And love just sharing this stuff with you guys. And, I was thinking about that, tonight. Like, let there be no misunderstanding that I like. Tonight we're going to be on step 11, and when it comes to step 11, all that I am is a guy who has practiced prayer and meditation with some level of intensity for the past 15 years. But I am a student. Make no mistake, I am a student of prayer and meditation, and I am constantly learning and constantly evolving. And so, we're going to go through this together, and we're going to talk through the book. The big book, obviously. Tonight is a night as well where we're going to utilize the 12 and 12 as well, because there is one absolutely just beautiful piece of gold in the 12 and 12 relative to prayer and meditation. So I'm going to share some of that with you, and I'm really just, all I'm going to do is share my experience with you. Good, bad, indifferent, and the evolution of prayer and meditation in my life. But anyway, before we get too far ahead, as we always do, let's begin with the set aside prayer. God, please help me to set aside everything I think I know about you, about me, about my fellow man, about the 12 steps. And please allow me to gain a fresh new vision, perspective, and understanding of what you, what me, what my fellow man, and the 12 steps are all about. Amen. Okay, and as this is the fourth dimension big book study, I always like to read the two parts of the book that refer to the fourth dimension. First of all, on page 8, Bill Wilson writes, I was soon to be catapulted into what I like to call the fourth dimension of existence. I was to know happiness, peace, and usefulness in a way of life that is incredibly more wonderful as time passes. And then on page 25, Bill Wilson writes that we have found much of heaven, and we have been rocketed into a fourth dimension of existence of which we had not even dreamed. Okay, we're going to be catapulted. We're going to be rocketed. Okay, and for all who will, for the sake of tradition, everybody please put one hand up like this. Don't get ahead of me, Bob. Don't get ahead of me. Everybody put another hand up like this. And everybody go, oh, yeah. We are not a glum lot. We are not a glum lot. We absolutely insist on enjoying life. I insist on enjoying life, man, and I do. I do. This life is not a vale of tears anymore. Thank God. Thank God. So, let's get into step 11, guys. We're going to be on bottom of page 85. And it occurs to me that Brad is not here. He's in Hawaii. So that's excellent. Would anyone like to volunteer to be a reader for us tonight? Anyone feeling the spirit to read for us tonight? Mitesh, you want to read? All right, man. All right. Beautiful. Thanks to whoever else I heard somebody's voice for a minute there, and we'll get you another time, I promise. But Mitesh, if you want to read for us, that would be wonderful. So let's talk about step 11 for a minute. So step 11, the step 11 on the wall says sought, which means we're seeking, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will and the power to carry that out. Okay, that's step 11 on the wall, and there's a lot in there. One of the things that I'm most these days I think about a lot is the word improve. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve. And that word improve is always in there. So when I'm 30 days sober, I read step 11 and it says improve. Okay, I got to improve. And then I'm 1 year sober and I read step 11 and it says improve. I got to improve. I'm 5 years sober, I read step 11, I got to improve. So I am constantly a student of prayer and meditation, and I am constantly working on it and getting better at it. But one of the things that I believe, and if your sponsor tells you something different, then your sponsor is right. Okay, that's fine. But I believe that although when I'm brand new, I may not technically be on step 11, I do believe that prayer is one of the very first actions that I can start taking when I'm new in Alcoholics Anonymous. Although I may not officially be on step 11, if you understand what I mean, prayer, I think, is one of the most important tools that we have as sponsors, okay? In terms of having people beginning to take actions that they have never taken before. In terms of taking actions that they can try a different way of life. And so when I start sponsoring people, and we'll talk about this more when we get to step 12, but one of the first actions that I ask them to take is to start praying. Now, are they on step 11? No, of course they're not on step 11. Okay, they're not on step 11. But I think that starting out with prayer is an excellent action to begin with. Okay, and that's one of the first things that I'll say to a newcomer is I want you to start praying every morning, every night, without fail, on your knees. Okay, I suggest you try it on your knees. Okay, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. But let's start on page 85. Mitesh, if you want to start reading, much has already been said.
Hi guys, Mitesh, recovered alcoholic. Right, so much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from Him who has all knowledge and power. If we have carefully followed directions, we have begun to sense the flow of His Spirit into us. To some extent, we have become God conscious. We have begun to develop this vital sixth sense, but we must go further, and that means more action. Step 11 suggests prayer and meditation. We shouldn't be shy on this matter of prayer. Better men than we are using it constantly. It works if we have the proper attitude and work at it. It would be easy to be vague about this matter, yet we believe we can make some definitive and valuable suggestions. When we retire at night.
So thank you, Mitesh. Great job. Thank you. And so most of us are probably aware and probably know that there's a lot of crossover between step 10 and step 11. And in fact, what most people refer to as step 10 in the big book is actually step 11. So what we're going to read through right now is what most of us think of as our nightly inventory. When we think about our nightly inventory, what we're actually reading in the book is step 11. Okay, that's what it is on page 86 to 89. Now, and guys, one of the things that I used to hear in AA a lot is like, well, my sponsor told me to read page 86 to 89 every day for 100 days. And so I read page 86 to 89, and I read When We Retire, and I read Upon Awakening. I read that every day. And like, that's good. It's a good thing, but I think it's far more important for me to actually take these actions. Okay, there's actions actually detailed that it's asking me to do. There are things that I am being requested to try to practice, and I think it's more important for me to take the actions on page 86 to 89 than anything else. And so on page 85, it says that we, to some extent, we have become God conscious, but we're trying to develop this vital sixth sense. And step 11 says to improve our conscious contact with God. That we're seeking this conscious contact. And I think that, prior to coming to AA and prior to practicing this way of life and prior to going through the 12 steps, I had some level of unconscious contact. Our book says deep down within every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God, right? We find the great reality deep within us. So I think God has always been there. I'm just not aware of it. I just had no relationship with God whatsoever. Okay, and why is that? Because he is obscured. by pomp, by calamity, and by worship of other things. What Bill Wilson calls worldly clamors, mostly those within myself. And the purpose of the steps is to begin to clear away all of the stuff within me that is cutting me off from that power. Okay, to get a better Wi-Fi connection. All right, we talked about that last week, right? To get a better connection to the Wi-Fi. There's no problem with the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi is always there. The Wi-Fi has always been there. Okay, the problem has been my connection to the Wi-Fi. Okay, and I really believe, guys, that there are actions that I can take that move me towards God, and there are certainly actions that I can take that move me further away. But God is always there. God is always there, and God is always constant, and God is always absolute. I believe that. God is the ultimate all the time, and I can either be moving towards or I can be moving further away. Okay, I love the analogy that being an AA is like walking up the down escalator. Okay, you guys know what it's like when you're walking up the down escalator in the mall? Okay, I don't even need to actively decide to turn around and start walking the other direction. All I need to do is stop moving. Just stop taking action, and I will start to get dragged back down. Okay. So I strongly believe that one of the first actions that I can begin to take in AA as a newcomer is prayer. And it's one of the first directions I ask my sponsees to take. And we keep it very simple. Ask for help in the morning and say thank you at night. And I ask them to do that when we're still functionally on step 1. Okay, we're not even on step 2 yet. AA is a place where we believe, AA is a place where we pray whether we believe or not. Okay, I believe that I can pray my way into belief in God if I am willing to surrender and take that action. I have also learned that if my belief is weak, I can pray for belief. If my trust in God is weak, I can pray for trust. If my faith in God is weak, I can pray for faith. God, I'm scared and I'm alone and I don't know what to do. And I feel like you're not here, man. And I need you to be here with me, God. Please help me to believe in you. Help me to grow my faith in you, God, because I'm scared and I'm alone and I don't know what to do, God. Okay. I've learned I can say prayers like that. Okay. I've learned that I can say prayers like, God, I don't believe in you. I don't believe in you. Okay. But they told me at that dumb big book study on Tuesday night that if I want to get sober, I'm going to have to start praying. So here I am. And this is all a bunch of hocus pocus mumbo jumbo. And I don't care, but I don't want to drink anymore, man. I want to get sober and I'm willing to try something new. I know you're not real, but here I am talking to you anyway. Amen. All right. You know what God does with a prayer like that? He smiles ear to ear, ear to ear. All right. He loves it. Sister Ignatia in the Akron Hospital. Anyone who knows early AA history will know about Sister Ignatia. She used to say that God's favorite sound is the voice of a stranger. God's favorite sound is the voice of someone he has never heard from before. Okay, someone who is now just returning to God. And when step 11 says sought, we're seeking. And my experience, man, is that when I turn towards God, if I take 1/2 of a step back towards God, God will take 10 steps back towards me with arms open and tears of joy in his eyes, ready to love and receive me immediately. But I have to make the first turn. Okay. God is not codependent. God will not go where he is not invited. Okay. And I was just talking with a friend the other day about free will and animals. Animals have no free will. They live on instinct. This is one of the things that separates human beings from dogs and animals, is that we have free will. And God did not develop us to just be a bunch of robotic sycophants to just worship God. He wants us to choose. He wants us to choose to want to be with him. And we can certainly choose not to as well. And we all know what that's like. People talk about hell. Hell, have you been to hell? I've been to hell. I can tell you hell is a real place. It has an address. It's in a place called the Flats in Medicine Hat, Alberta. I can show you where hell is. Okay. And we all have our own version of hell. We've all been to hell. We all know what that's like. And I really believe that hell is just conscious separation from God. That's all it is. And so in step 11, we are just trying to make conscious contact with God. I believe that as newcomers and with my sponsees, we can start just by taking that action of prayer. Chuck Chamberlain used to say that my actions are my greatest prayers. Think about that. My actions are my greatest prayers. That I show God what I want in nothing so much as in what I do. And so I think that taking this simple action of praying, whether I believe or not, whatever the words might be, whatever the words are that I'm saying is secondary. God knows in my heart. God knows the secret wish of my heart. And if I'm here and I'm in AA and I'm willing to try a new way of life and I don't want to drink anymore and I want to get sober for the first time in my life, really, and I'm really willing to try a spiritual solution because I've discovered that I may not be able to come to believe in God yet, but I've come to believe in the hopelessness of my situation. And I have come to believe that I am in a trap from which there is no escape. And I have come to believe that I am doomed to die an alcoholic death if I don't try something new. I may not believe in God yet. I may not be ready to come to believe in God, but I can come to believe in the actions of AA. And I can come to believe that what you have told me in AA is real and true. And I can begin to take those actions and I begin to try a little prayer. And like I said, I can say to God, God, I want to believe in you. I want to have faith in you. God, please help me. God, please help me. You know, the evolution of prayer in Alcoholics Anonymous, the evolution of prayer is we start out, prayer is God help me. God help me. Isn't that where we all begin? God help me. Okay, and then it evolves. And then it becomes God change me. God, please change me. Right? And then ultimately it becomes God use me. God use me. Okay? God help me. God change me. God does change us. And then ultimately God use me. Use me. I love that. I love that. Okay, so let's get back into the book. And so what we're going to talk about right now, as I say, a lot of this is intertwined with step 10. And so what Mitesh is going to read for us now is going to be called When We Retire at Night. And this is functionally, guys, what I do for my nightly inventory. And last week I showed you guys that app, and I know some of you downloaded the app and gave me some feedback that you thought it was awesome. But just to be clear, you know, this is how they're intertwined. So that step 10 app is actually taken from step 11 in the book. So let's have Mitesh read it for us.
When we retire at night, we constructively review our day. Were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Do we owe an apology? Have we kept something to ourselves which should be discussed with another person at once? Were we kind and loving toward all? What could we have done better? Were we thinking of ourselves most of the time? Or were we thinking of what we could do for others, of what we could pack into the stream of life? But we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection. That would diminish our usefulness to others. After making our review, we ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should be taken. On awakening.
Okay, so really, and guys, so thank you, Mitesh. Just give me a moment. When we talk about step 10, does anyone remember from last week? We talked about last week. We look for 4 things and we do 4 things. We look for 4 things and we do 4 things. You're seeing that replicated here, okay? It says continue to watch for resentment, selfishness, dishonesty, or fear. Okay, those are the 4 things that we look for. Always look for those. Simple. Keep this simple. Okay, keep it simple. I know some, you know, there's all kinds of inventories online that you can get and you can download, and we can get big leather-bound books and big pens with feather quills, and we can do this, you know, elaborate inventory. I need to keep it simple, man. I have to keep it simple. Okay, continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. And by the way, just to reiterate from last week, what are the 4 different, or sorry, 3 different types of inventory that I can take where I will be looking for those. Well, the first is spot check. Okay, which means I need to be aware all the time. I need to watch all the time as I'm going through life for resentment, selfishness, dishonesty, and fear. Okay. And then because I'm a human being and I'm going to ultimately, become selfish, dishonest, resentful, and fearful at some point during the day, the next thing I do is at the end of the night, I look, where was I resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Okay. And those 4 are reiterated here. And then the last is what we call the annual or semi-annual house cleaning. So once a year, I go through and I do a big overhaul. Resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid. Okay. When these crop up, those are the 4 things we look for. When these crop up, we do 4 things. What are the 4 things we do? We ask God at once to remove them. Number 1. We talk to someone about them. We make amends if we've harmed anyone. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to how we can help others. Okay. And you see that replicated here. After making a review, we ask God's forgiveness. We ask and we inquire what corrective measures should be taken. Okay. So this is like kind of a catch-all. It's kind of like a duo catch-all. Okay. So in step 10, we're going to do that inventory. In step 11, we're doing it again. Okay. And our book says in the 12 and 12, it talks about, we're not going to go there just yet, but it talks about prayer or inventory or meditation separately are all very good practices and will certainly lead us on a spiritual path to God. But what Bill Wilson writes in the 12 and 12 in step 11 is that when logically interwoven, prayer and inventory and meditation, all 3 of them together, creates what he calls an unshakable foundation for life. Okay? An unshakable foundation for life. And I need an unshakable foundation for life, man, because I'm a guy that gets shook up pretty easy. Okay? The certain trials and low spots of life knock me off my game, man, and I get shook up pretty easy. I need an unshakable foundation for life. Okay? And I have found one in prayer and inventory and meditation, logically interwoven. When I practice it, all 3 together, logically, and I take that action, my life is pretty unshakable. Regardless of the outer vicissitudes of life, the ups and downs of life, my life is pretty unshakable. When I don't practice them, my life gets shook up pretty easy. Okay. My friend Russell Spatz says, if I'm upset, it's because I'm upsettable. I am upsettable. That is why I get upset. Okay. When I practice them, I get the deal. When I don't practice them, I do not get the deal. All right. And my life gets shook up pretty easy. Okay. And my friend Scott Lee likes to say, the problem with prayer and meditation and inventory is that they work so well that I practice them and then life gets really good. And because life gets really good, guess what happens? I stop working on them quite so fervently. And then what happens? Then I get knocked off my game again, man. Okay. And that's not unusual. I think it was Dr. Silkworth. They were talking about, this idea of relapsing and relapsing, guys, like, I can relapse into alcoholism without drinking. Do you guys understand what I mean by that? I can relapse into horrible behavior and never have to take a drink. But the idea of relapsing, Dr. Silkworth said it's not unusual. We see this all the time. People come in and they have a triple, quadruple heart attack or whatever it is. Okay. And they come and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe this has happened. And then, for 6 months, they're like only eating vegetables and they're doing cardio every day and low sodium and all the stuff, right? For about 6 months, and they're Mr. Health. And then what happens? Well, they're not in as acute pain anymore from the heart attack, and suddenly it's like, I can have a cheeseburger, and suddenly it's like, I don't have to do cardio this week. and it's typical. It happens in many, many things, and it's not unusual. But I think for me, man, it is the action and the discipline of prayer and meditation. You know, and Bill talks about it in the 12 and 12. Most of us go through periods where we can only pray or meditate with the greatest effort. And some of us rebel at doing it at different periods in our life. And I have struggled with that. I'll be honest, over the last 9 months, man. Over the last 9 months, I've gone through some stuff, and I was saying prayers, and it was just like Chuck Chamberlain says, it was just smoke up the chimney. There was nothing there, nothing. And it was very, very hard for me to continue to develop the discipline of prayer. But it is an action that I learned how to take in very, very, very early recovery. And that's why I believe it's one of the most important actions we can get when we're trying to lay new tracks in the life of one of our sponsees, to get them to try something new. The practice of prayer every morning, every night. Ask for help in the morning, say thank you at night, is one of the most important actions we can begin to have our sponsees take. Okay. And it grows. And I'm going to talk about how that's grown for me in step 11 as we continue to go through this. So now, Mitesh, if you would be kind enough, let's read through what's called On Awakening, and let's read through On Awakening, and then let's talk about the difference between meditation and contemplation, and what they meant by meditation in early Alcoholics Anonymous.
All right. On awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. We consider our plans for the day. Before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest or self-seeking motives. Under these conditions, we can employ our mental faculties as with assurance, for after all, God gave us brains to use. Our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking is cleared of wrong motives.
Okay, so one of the first things I want to say here right now, one of the like a super, super, super important direction that I missed for years in this is God direct my thinking. I can tell you guys, I can feel like an energy change in my brain when I hand my thinking over to God. Okay, God, please direct my thinking. And talks about our thought life. Our thought life. I didn't know I had a thought life. I didn't know I had a thought life that I could observe and I could be aware of my thinking. Okay. My life, man, was being driven by my thinking. Okay. You guys understand what I mean? I mean, my mind absolutely dominated me. And I did not know that there is a level of consciousness above my thinking mind. And that when I develop a thought life, I can actually observe the thinking that's going on in my mind. When I can get a level above it, because I've developed a conscious contact with God instead of conscious contact with my own darn thinking. Okay, that's the only thing I ever had conscious contact with, was my own thinking. Okay, and my thinking dominated my life. So we can develop this thought life where we can become an active participant in the thoughts that we are going to think, and we can begin to choose what we are going to think, and we can ask God to direct our thinking. Let me give you another beautiful tip. Think about God. Think about God. Okay? It's one thing to ask God to direct our thinking, but I've learned it's another beautiful practice to think about God. I mean, ask yourself, if you were going to think about God, just turn your mind. We elevate our thought life to an entirely new plane. It says we will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking is cleared of wrong motives. Yes. And then we elevate what we are thinking about. We actively choose to think about God. Okay. Now let's do something just for fun. I want 3 people right now. If you were thinking about God, unmute yourself just for a second and tell me, what does God, when you think about God, what does that look like for you? What does that mean for you? And I understand that we have a very human conception. We could never conceive of the ultimate absoluteness of God. Never. But what does it look like for you? What does that mean if you were going to say, I'm going to think about God? Anyone?
Just immediately, it calmed me
Lisa.
down. Like, I just got really calm. Bam. That's it.
Amen. Amen. I love it. Thank you for that, Lisa. Anyone else want to unmute yourself? When you think about God, what does that look like for you? What does that mean for you? Anyone?
Basically,
Mystery.
for me, I don't think it's so much what it looks like, it's what it feels like. I feel like I open up.
Amen. All right, man. I love it.
Because I don't think I can see as such as I can feel. So it feels like I actually opening up to things rather than focus, closed-minded, tunnel vision.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Expansiveness, right? Like the big beautiful sky right behind you in that great yeah. That's what it looks like, man. Okay, anybody else? Marcus, I saw Marcus unmute for a second.
Oh yeah, I just said mystery. I think there's a good book that I picked up, Practicing the Presence of God. I forget the name, but he was talking exactly about thinking about God, at all times, right? Just conscious contact with God.
Amen. I love that. Okay, let's do one more. I just love this stuff. I'll answer in a minute, Anne. I will. What about you, Anne? What about you?
Well, I thank you so much, Kevin. I think of love, but I need to think more like trusting, but I don't. Thank you. It's love.
So when I think about God, because I do practice this, I think about, for me, God is certainly like nature, mountains, planets, the mystery. You want to talk about the mystery? Let's talk about the mystery of like the universe in and of itself, from the massiveness and the expansiveness of the universe to like down to like atoms and like nanoparticles, and like it's unbelievable. But another thing that I think about when I think about God is the sound of happy, healthy children laughing. The sound of happy, healthy children laughing, to me, that's the sound of God. And I think about that, and it like brings tears to my eyes to think about that. Another thing that I've thought about God over the years is a tree. You can imagine a tree blowing in the wind. And I think that is a really good representation of God, a tree blowing in the wind, because you cannot see the wind, but we can see evidence of the wind in that tree as the leaves and the branches are blowing. And I'm looking right now, I'm seeing a bunch of leaves, a bunch of branches right now in front of me on my Zoom screen right now. I'm seeing the evidence of the miracle of God right now. And I can't see God, but I can see the evidence right now on my screen in front of me with all of you. So we ask God to direct our thinking. And I think it's also a very, very valuable tool our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when I begin to think about God. And when we get to the end today, I want to talk about something called scientific prayer that I have practiced as well. That's something we get from Emmett Fox, and it begins with thinking about God, and I'm going to share a little bit about that with you. Mitesh, back to you, please. Page 86, and thinking about our day.
Lovely. In thinking about a day, we may face indecision. We may not be able to determine which course to take. Here we ask God for inspiration, an intuitive thought, or a decision. We relax and take it easy. We don't struggle. We are often surprised how the right answers come after we have tried this for a while. What used to be the hunch or the occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of the mind. Being still experienced and just having made conscious contact with God, it is not probable that we are going to be inspired at all times. We might pay for this presumption in all sorts of absurd actions and ideas. Nevertheless, we find that our thinking will, as time passes, be more and more on the plane of inspiration. We come to rely upon it.
All right, so I'm just gonna talk here quickly about the practice of prayer. I mean, what it's really asking me to do is to be constantly praying, constantly aware of what I'm thinking, constantly aware of when I'm resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid, when I'm experiencing these things, when I'm getting knocked off my game, when I have a decision to make, when I'm feeling uncertain, when I'm feeling, a lot of it is just fear, guys. I cannot tell you what like an evil and corroding thread fear is in my life. Constantly. I'm constantly afraid of things. Okay. And I don't even recognize it sometimes. I have to be aware of it. Like, why am I tangled up right now? Why am I, oh, I'm afraid. Hey, Kevin, how you doing? Oh, I'm afraid. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay. And so we have to ask God to direct our thinking and direct our motives. And direct and please, God, inspire me with an intuitive thought, an intuitive decision. We relax and take it easy. We don't struggle. I don't fight through these things anymore. It's like, God, what should I do? God, what can I do? God, how can I best be of service to you? Right? Isn't that what it says in the step 4 fear prayer? God, please remove my fear and direct my attention towards what you would have me be. Okay, what would God have me be? Love and service, man. Love and service. How can I be of ultimate love? And ultimately, and if I can't be of love, how can I just be of service? Okay, what can I do? How can I be useful? How can I be helpful to someone else and to stop thinking about myself? And one of the things that we're going to read a line here. It's gonna see be quick to see where religious people are right. Make use of what they have to offer. One of the things that I've been taught that comes from that other, the other big book, the other big book that we read sometimes. There's a line in there that to be prayerful in all things, to be prayerful in all things. And I'll tell you where I learned that. I learned that at the gym one time, because there was this guy who was always coming and working out, and he always had like a Jesus Saves t-shirt and a Jesus Saves hat, and he was, and this guy was like strong as an ox. He was doing like 500-pound back squats, and he would actively get down and pray in the gym, like on his knees, pray, and then get up and then like a 500-pound back squat. And I was like, holy smokes, I want what that guy has, man. Like, and so I went and asked him one time, like, I said, if you don't mind me asking, I'm a spiritual guy. I pray and meditate a lot too. Can I ask you, what are you praying for? Like, before you do that back squat and you're talking to God, what are you praying for exactly? And he said, strength, which makes me laugh, right? Obviously, he's praying for strength, but he's like, mind, body, and soul, man, that's what I'm praying for. And he told me, he said, the Bible says to be prayerful in all things. And I think that's what it's asking us to do here. As I'm going through my day, practicing the presence of God, just like Mark has talked about, practicing this presence of God, being mindful of God all the time, being mindful of where the power comes from. And as I'm going through my day, when I face indecision, when I'm full of fear, when I'm feeling resentful, when I'm about to be dishonest, or God forbid I have been dishonest about something, whatever that might be, my motives are going to be dishonest. I know that. Inviting that presence in. Somebody the other day was talking about the presence of God and Jewish people. Speaking of other religious people, they wear that yarmulke, right, on top of their head all the time. Maybe we got some Jewish people on the call today. I was listening to a Jewish person talk about the point of the yarmulke is to remind them of the presence of God all the time, so that the presence of God is always with them. And they said it's a lot like when you're driving down the highway and we're speeding, okay? We're speeding down the highway, and we know that that's wrong, right? We know that it's wrong to do that, right? Raise your hand if you know that it's wrong to speed, but you do it anyway. We speed, right? We do. But what happens as soon as we experience the presence of a police cruiser on the side of the road? What do we all do? Oh, we slow right down, right? And we're like, oh, hello, officer. I right on the speed limit every time. And this Jewish fellow said that that's exactly the same reason as why we practice the presence of God all the time. We practice as though we're driving on the highway next to the high-speed police chaser, the police cruiser all the time. And we're not tempted to try and see what we can get away with. Brothers and sisters, let me tell you, one of the most destructive ways that my defects of character play out in my life is by this simple, entitled thought that the rules don't apply to me. Rules don't apply to me. I can speed and I'll get away with it. I'll park where I want to park, and I'll get whatever speeding tickets, and I'll talk my way out of it later. The rules don't apply to me. The rules do apply to me. They apply to me very much. And there are rules, and I know that there are internal rules that God has for me. And I need to practice the presence of God and invite the presence of God into my life and to be prayerful in all things. Buddhists talk about that. You know, I'm pulling from everything right now. We got Christianity, we got Judaism. Well, I'm going to pull from Buddhism right now. Whatever it is that you're doing, be mindful of what you're doing. So if I'm brushing my teeth, as the Buddhist philosophy is, if I'm brushing my teeth, be completely mindful of doing nothing but brushing my teeth. But that's not what I do I? No, I'll be brushing my teeth and trying to button a shirt and trying to like look at my phone and respond to an email while I'm doing like 9 things at once because I'm not mindful. Okay, and I'm not being prayerful in all things. My thought life at that point is absolutely ruling me again. It's dominating. Okay, as opposed to elevating my thoughts into a higher level, into a God consciousness, a level of consciousness above my thinking mind. Does that make sense, you guys? Okay, good. All right, let's keep going, Mitesh.
Right, so we usually conclude the period of meditation with a prayer that we be shown all through the day what the next step is to be, and we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. We ask especially for freedom of self-will and are careful to make no requests for ourselves, and we may ask ourselves, however, if others will be helped. We are careful never to pray for our own selfish ends. Many of us have wasted a lot of time doing that, and it doesn't work. You can easily see why. If circumstances warrant, we ask our wives or friends to join us in morning meditation. If we belong to a religious denomination which requires a definitive morning devotion, we attend that also. If not members of religious bodies, we sometimes select and memorize a few set prayers which emphasize the principles we have been discussing. There are many helpful books also. Suggestions about these may be obtained from one's priest, minister, or rabbi. Be quick to see where religious people are right. Make use of what they offer.
Okay, so we're going to pause there. Thank you, Mitesh. Great. And there's 2 things that we're going to talk about here. 2 things that I think are really important that we can get from, that we can take from other religious people. And by the time I get to step 11, brothers and sisters, I mean, this is where I can really start to play jazz. Okay, I can really start to pull from like anything that feeds my soul, man. Anything that feeds my soul, anything that feeds my spirit, anything that is that I'm intuitively inspired to follow and to learn and to practice. Bop to your drop, man. It's great. It's great. There's so much beautiful stuff out there. There's 2 things in particular I want to share with you. One of them I think is key. It's essential. I believe it's essential for me, and it's something that I practice every day without question. Every day without question. The 5 major world religions: Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism. Those 5 major world religions. There's not a lot that they agree on, but there is one thing, there is one action that they all take without exception. And that is when they pray, when they talk to God, they put their body in a physical position of humility, one way or another, which is to say, I get down on my knees when I pray. And you may rebel at that. And that is, you may recoil and think like, what is this guy talking about? What is this religious mumbo jumbo? And I understand. I rebelled at it too, until I tried it. And the first time I got down on my knees to pray, I was in a place called 5 North, which is the psychiatric ward in the Medicine Regional Hospital. And it's safe to say at that point in my life, I had nothing to lose, man. I had nothing to lose. And I had tried it my way for as long and as hard as I could. And I was so smart, I was almost dead. That's how well I was at managing my own life. And I tried it, and I tried getting down on my knees. And I think that and in that moment, I had my first conscious contact, my first consciousness of the presence of God in that moment on my knees, in that psychiatric ward, in that hospital. That's where I found God. And for me, there is something sacred about putting my body in a physical position of humility. Every major world religion does it. You know, have you ever seen, this is really cool. I just heard about this the other day. Have you ever seen Jewish people, when they pray, they kind of move back and forth? Have you ever seen that before? Like very devout
It's called
Jews.
davening, Kevin.
So say again, Lisa?
It's called davening.
Davening. I
Yeah.
love it.
To rock back
I
and forth.
I was listening to one of them talk about that they are emulating the flame on a candle. That's what they're doing. They're emulating the flame on a candle, the light of God and I just think it's beautiful. Muslim people, man, when I travel to the Middle East, we will have like a day of meetings, and instead of like coffee breaks and lunch breaks, they have prayer breaks. Okay, which is good because I need them. Okay. And when they take prayer breaks, man, they don't like go get a coffee. When they take a prayer break, the carpets are out and they're down 5 times a day, man, on their knees, and they touch their forehead to the ground. Like they are absolutely in a position of surrender. And man, they don't even drink alcohol, those guys. So anyway, that's something, you know, all of these things, man, I can practice. That's something easily that I can practice. So that said, guys, the other thing, this is something that Alcoholics Anonymous has developed, and we have gotten from religion, is on page 99 in the 12 and 12. And I had mentioned to you guys that we're going to talk about the 12 and 12. So this is in step 11 in the 12 and 12. This is, it's become known as the step 11 prayer. And it's not the step 11 prayer. It's the St. Francis of Assisi prayer. And we got it from a fella named St. Francis of Assisi. And I'm so blessed here in Calgary. And anyone who's here in Calgary, we have not far outside of where I live. It's called Mount St. Francis, man. Mount St. Francis. And those Franciscan monks at Mount St. Francis have devoted a large part of their lives to receiving step 5s from the recovery community in Calgary. We are so blessed. Father Brian heard my first step 5 out there at Mount St. Francis. It took 6 hours and he changed my life forever. Jerry, I see you nodding. Have you been out there? It's beautiful, right? It's unbelievable. So St. Francis, let me tell you a story. St. Francis, and I'm going to take some liberties. I'm really kind of paraphrasing here, but St. Francis was a rich kid, is what he was. He was a prince, okay? And more money than he could handle, and living in Italy and all that stuff. And he was just struck by God one day. He was absolutely just struck by God. And the story is he was riding on his horse and he saw a leper on the ground, and he felt absolutely compelled to go help and love and be of service to this leper on the ground, okay? And that's where the phrase "get down off our high horse" comes from, okay? He got down off of his horse and went and ministered to this leper. So I remember, I'm going to give you guys an AA classic. I remember being at Mount St. Francis, and Father Brian was talking about step 7. He was talking about humility. And he was talking about humility, how for some of us, humility is about getting down off our horse to go help someone else, right? But he also said that for some of us, humility is allowing ourselves to be that leper who is accepting help, right? And oh man, brilliant, right? And I'm driving home. This is so classic, guys. I'm driving home with my sponsor that night. And I said, "Oh, did you hear what Father Brian said about how some of us like get down off the horse, but some of us need to like get help from," oh my God, wasn't that amazing? And he said, "Yeah, it was all right. It was okay. But I can tell that Father Brian's not an alcoholic." And he wasn't. He's not an alcoholic. I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Because if Father Brian was an alcoholic, he would know the truth, which is that an alcoholic can be both of those things simultaneously." I can need to get down off my horse and accept help from someone else at the same time. Anyone here, and let me give you an example of that. Anyone here ever think, ever simultaneously thought to yourself, I'm underpaid at my job and I deserve a promotion, but at the same time be afraid that you're going to get fired by the end of the day? Okay, I can have both of those thoughts. I can have both of those things at the same time. Okay, I can think simultaneously, if I was single, it's like, no one is ever gonna love me. I'm gonna be single forever. But if Prince Charming doesn't come and isn't a male model with a PhD of some kind, I don't want him. Okay, I can have both of those thoughts at the same time. You guys know what I mean? Okay. Anyway, so that's St. Francis. And we're going to read the St. Francis of Assisi prayer. This is on page 99 in the 12 and 12. And there's a couple things in here that I want to share with you guys that absolutely just changed my life. But Mitesh, do you have it available, Mitesh? Rock and roll, man. Let's go to page 99. Lord, make me a channel.
Lord, make me a channel of thy peace, that where there is hatred, I may bring love, that where there is wrong, I may bring the spirit of forgiveness, that where there is discord, I may bring harmony, that where there is error, I may bring truth, that where there is doubt, I may bring faith, that where there is despair, I may bring hope, that where there are shadows, I may bring light, that where there is sadness, I may bring joy. Lord, grant that I may seek rather than to comfort than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting that one finds. It is by forgiving that one is forgiven. It is by dying that one awakens to all eternal life. Amen.
Amen. All right. Beautiful prayer. Obviously, world famous prayer. There's songs, there's meditations all about this prayer. Again, I need to keep it very simple. And when the part of this prayer that was most transformative for me is the stanza that says, God grant that I may seek to comfort rather than to be comforted, to understand rather than to be understood, and to love rather than to be loved. Brothers and sisters, you better believe the battle cry for this alcoholic is, why don't you understand me? Why don't you understand me? No one understands me, okay? And never for a moment did it occur to me to seek to understand other people rather than to be understood. What a remarkable change of mind, okay? And seek to love rather than to be loved. Oh, God, love me. Oh, I just want to be loved. I just want to be loved. Don't we all just want to be loved? Love me, love me, love me. Okay. And it never occurred to me that the spiritual secret in life is to learn to love others as opposed to trying to be loved, to get love rather to give love. And I heard someone talking about this the other day. The reason why that's so important is because God is love. And I am of God, and I have love within me. And when I give you love, where does that love come from? When I give you love from within me, where does that love come from? It comes from God. And I am instantly reminded of the sacred presence of God and of love within me when I'm giving it to you. And I know that I am truly connected and truly filled with this loving spirit of God within me, because I have the ability, seemingly from out of thin air, to just create it and share it with you and give it to you and learn to love you, instead of trying to manipulate and be selfish and self-centered, getting other people to love me. Okay? And the beautiful thing, man, is that, no amount of love from all the human beings in the world on planet Earth could all just, oh, Kevin, oh, Kevin, oh, Kevin. It would never be enough. It would never be enough, because no human power can relieve my alcoholism. No human power. There is one power that can relieve my alcoholism, and that is the power of God. And when I'm loving you, when I'm able to give you love, particularly when I am able to love someone that is seemingly unlovable, that would believe if you were to ask them, and some of us guys, brothers and sisters, when we get to AA, we are unlovely creatures. That's what Bill Wilson says. We are unlovely creatures when we get here to AA. I was an unlovely creature, and people loved me. People loved me and were able to give me that love. We'll love you until you learn to love yourself. And we share that love. And by my ability to love people with no expectation of return, no expectation of return. In fact, these are people that you know, for the most part, there's not really anything, you know, that they have to offer when they get here. Okay. But that, you know, I talk about this like rescue animals. When you see a rescue animal that's like beaten and abused and hurt and scared, and they're angry and they're vicious and you can't trust them. And then you see that same rescue animal like 6 weeks later, and the only thing you've given it is food, water, and love. It is transformed. Is it not? It is like a different, and a lot of times, man, I think it can be a lot the same with newcomers, you know, who are here and they're beaten and they're broken and they think that they're unlovable, they can't be loved and they don't deserve love and all that stuff. And we give them love and they become, I see them get lit up. I see them get lit up. Okay. And our real goal in life, man, we will bring them little handfuls of water. But the ultimate goal in sponsorship is to help them to find the river by taking these 12 steps, man. And about the time that a guy does his step 5, you see a light come on inside of him, or her for that matter. And it's an absolutely transformative thing. And at that point, they don't need my love anymore because they have tapped into the source of love. And it's an incredible thing. Anyway, Mitesh, so that's when I read the step 11 prayer, those are the things, and those are the themes and the practices that I think about on a regular basis, which is where should I be seeking to comfort rather than to be comforted? Am I seeking? It's a really important one, guys. Understand rather than to be understood. Okay. In my relationships, with my family, in business, am I seeking to be understood rather than trying to seek to understand? It's key. And then to love rather than to be loved. And when I love you, I am reminded of the love of God within me. Okay, Mitesh, let's go back to the big book and we'll keep rocking and rolling. We're almost done here. And I know some of you have to drop off right at 7 o'clock. You just say goodbye. No hard feelings at all.
As we go through the day, we pause when agitated or doubtful and ask for the right thought or action. We constantly remind ourselves that we are no longer running the show, humbly saying to ourselves many times each day, "Thy will be done." We are then in much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. We become much more efficient. We do not tire so easily, for we are not burning up energy foolishly as we did when we were trying to arrange life to suit ourselves. It works, it really does. We alcoholics are undisciplined, so we let God discipline us in the simple way we have just outlined. But this is not for all. There is action and more action. Faith without works is dead. The next chapter is entirely devoted to step 12.
So it says we constantly, we go through the day, we pause when agitated or doubtful. I often just think about it as I've often just thought like when we're agitated, we ask for the right thought or action. But it doesn't just say agitated. It says when we're agitated or doubtful, which really means when I'm resentful or when I'm afraid. If I'm doubtful, it means I'm doubting the power of God. I'm not trusting God and I am afraid. I'm doubtful. I'm disconnected from God and I'm feeling afraid. We ask for the right thought or action. What else was I going to say about that? It says we alcoholics are undisciplined, so we let God discipline us in the simple way we have just outlined. I think, again, guys, it is crucial for me to have a morning devotion and an evening devotion. And other people do it in different ways. I will tell you that my evening devotion is much more involved than my morning devotion. That's the way that it is for me. Other people do like a big thing in the morning and a little bit at night. Whatever it is, these practices will evolve and we improve over time. Okay, but my practice today, I say a prayer in the morning. For a long time in my step 11, I wasn't meditating. I didn't meditate. I didn't enjoy meditation. I didn't do meditation. There was no meditation involved whatsoever. There was some step 10, and then there was praying. And my sponsor said, how are you doing with step 11, Kevin? And I said, yeah, awesome. Every morning, every night, pray every morning, every night, many, many times, you know, throughout the day. Many times it says there, we say to ourselves many times each day, many times, thy will be done, many times, okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good to go. He said, great, what about meditation? I said, well, I don't really go in for meditation. It's, you know, it's not really my thing. It's that's kind of hippy dippy new age stuff. I don't really go in for that. And he said, oh, I see. So you've rewritten step 11 then. For you, it's sought through prayer and or meditation. I see. It's optional for you, right? And so we improve. Okay. And I will tell you guys, Bill Wilson doesn't write a lot about Eastern meditation. Because at that time in his life in the 1930s, it was not very well understood. And I can tell you guys that the practice of what we call mindfulness meditation has transformed my life. It's changed who I am. And it has removed the rough edges of my personality, and it has improved my character. And mindfulness meditation has had a profound impact on my defects of character. It has everything to do with step 6 and 7 for me. It has everything to do with step 12 for me. It has made me a better person overall. And so I have come to practice mindfulness meditation. And I'm grateful that I have a sponsee who was practicing it and really opened the door for me, because with meditation, guys, I'm like, you know, I'm competitive. So if I'm going to meditate, I can't do anything a little bit. Okay, if I'm going to meditate, I'm going to become the Olympic gold medal winning meditator. I'm gonna win meditation. I'm gonna beat you at meditation. I'm gonna be better at meditation than you. It's just the way that I am, right? And so if I'm gonna start meditating, it's like, okay, I'm gonna meditate for an hour. Okay, it's like my sponsor just said, Kevin, did you know you could start meditating for 30 seconds? I thought, well, what good is that gonna do? Well, it's gonna do better than no meditation at all. Okay, and so that's where I began. And my sponsee said, Kevin, first of all, don't ever go into meditation from a position of feeling like a chore. Try to go into it feeling like a sense of joy, and then start with it. Start with 30 seconds or 2 minutes, and it can grow from there. And I started seeking, and that's what we do, man. We seek. Okay, I was like, okay, my sponsor has given me a direction. Thank God for sponsors that give directions. My sponsor gave me a direction. Kevin, you've got to start instituting prayer and meditation into your life. That's a direction. It's hard to argue with. That's step 11. Do I practice the 12 steps? You know, Bill Cleveland, great AA speaker, says a lot of people in AA are working 11 and a half steps. 11 and a half steps. We're not working the 12 steps, man. If I'm not meditating, I'm working 11 and a half steps. That's it. I'm like, oh man, I love that. So yeah, sought through prayer and meditation. That's right, Scott. That's right. That's exactly right. And so I began to practice meditation, and I've learned. And so I started looking for things on YouTube, and I started looking at all different types of apps and all that stuff. And like some of it was okay. And I encourage you guys to keep seeking and looking for who is going to be the person for you. But I will tell you guys, the person for me is that man right there. That is a man by the name of Thich Nhat Hanh. His also referred to as Tay, T-H-A-Y, which just means teacher. And his name, T-H-I-C-H, new word, N-H-A-T, new word, H-A-H-N. Thich Nhat Hanh, great Buddhist Zen teacher. And he taught me how to breathe. Thich Nhat Hanh taught me how to breathe. I thought I knew how to breathe. I didn't know how to breathe. I had no idea. And very, very simple. And one of the things about mindfulness meditation I was mistaken about is that I thought that mindfulness meditation meant clearing my mind of all thought, not having any thoughts in my mind, right? And like a lot of things in my life, I was 180 degrees wrong. That is not mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness meditation is having my mind completely absorbed with thought, but only one thought. And what the Buddha teaches is to have my mind filled with the thought of my breathing. That is it. And whereas it was quite surprising to me to find out that meditation actually requires a lot of focus and a lot of concentration. And I concentrate, Jerry, I'll text it to you after, Jerry. A lot of concentration to focus just on my breathing. As I breathe in, I know I'm breathing out. I'm breathing in. How many of you, when you breathe in, okay, just think about this for a minute. When you breathe in like that, do you know that that's your in breath and not your out breath? Yes, of course you do. We know when we're breathing in and we know when we're breathing out. That's the Buddha's first lesson for us. As I breathe in, I know that I'm breathing in. And as I breathe out, I know I am breathing out. And we focus completely on our breathing. Mind full. I don't know why it was so confusing for me. It's not mind empty meditation. It's mind full meditation. But rather than giving way to what we call our monkey mind, what the Buddha calls our monkey mind, where it's like Grand Central Head, I've got this carnival between my ears of all this thinking. It's like an unleashed dog running around the park like crazy. I am bringing my mind into concentration and focus on one thing and one thing only. And initially what the Buddha teaches is that that thing ought to be our breathing. As I breathe in, and I'm focusing, a lot of concentration. It actually takes a lot of energy to only focus. It's a surprising, it takes, you get tired at the end of focusing just on my breathing. As I breathe in, I know I'm breathing in. As I breathe out, I know I am breathing out. How would you guys like to try it with me? You guys want to do a little 2-minute meditation with me? 2-minute guided meditation. And I will guide us through it, okay? And, you know, one of the things that I really appreciated about Thich Nhat Hanh is he doesn't, you know, some of these guys wanted you to count, like, I breathe in for 4 seconds, and I hold for 2 seconds, and I breathe out. No, just breathe normally. And be aware, as I breathe in, I know I'm breathing in. As I breathe out, I know I am breathing out. And then he gives a couple other directions, and I'll share some of those with you. So Mitesh, it's actually T-H-I-C-H, not, there you go, not thick, Thich Nhat Hanh. All right, guys, we're gonna do just a quick 2-minute meditation, understanding that I am a student, man. I am a student of this. We are all just students, okay? We're all just students. So let's let God discipline us in this way. And I think the most important thing is that I make the effort to take this discipline on a daily basis, okay? Whether it's for 2 minutes, I tend to do like 12 minutes now a day. And some days I don't do anything at all because I'm a human being and I'm undisciplined and I can be rebellious some days. That's the reality, okay? But for the most part, I practice this on a regular basis. We're going to start with a mindfulness meditation. I'm going to focus only on my breathing. As other thoughts come into my mind, I'm going to gently guide my thinking back to focusing just on my breathing. Starting now. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. Concentrating, focusing only on my breathing. In. Out. Concentrate on the breathing. Breathing in, I calm my mind. Breathing out, I ease my body, let my body relax. As I breathe in, I calm my mind. As I breathe out, I ease my body. As I breathe in, I know I am in the present moment. As I breathe out, I know this is a wonderful moment. Present moment. Wonderful moment. In. Out. All right, guys. There you go. 2-minute meditation. Beautiful.